Hello, y'all, and welcome to the third episode of the Anti-Filter podcast. I'm your host, Allison, and today I'm going to be kind of giving you guys like my life story a little bit. And we're going to talk about the standard gym girl progression. In my case, at least, from model to overweight to just doing cardio to training glutes to wanting bolder shoulders. A standard progression. I was always tall and thin. Like, when I popped out of my mom's pussy, I was literally 22 and a half inches and 5 pounds, 9 ounces. So, safe to say I came out like a fucking spaghetti noodle. I was almost 2 feet when entering this world. And for as far back I can remember, I was always in the back of class photos, always in the back row, always the tallest, and like very, very skinny. And I was always active as a kid. Like when I was a child, I did competitive swimming. As I moved up around grade 5, I started playing hockey. When I went into high school, I started doing sports like football, water polo, track and field, high jump, all that sort of shit. But looking back as a younger kid, I realized this just now that like, even as a child, I was binging all the time, like binge eating. And I think it makes sense considering kind of the upbringing that I had, in the sense that I was probably just trying to regain control in any way possible. My parents divorced when I was 7. I found out when I was 6, around Christmas. My mom left around my birthday when I turned 7. And I had a weird upbringing, I will not lie. My dad's house was very different from my mom's in the sense that his was very controlled. I'm not going to go too much into it, but like it was 2 very separate households and very different. And when I was around 13, I was pretty tall at that point. And I was with my mom and we were on a trip, I forget, Cuba, Jamaica, somewhere, all inclusive. And we met this dude who worked for this modeling agency called Elmer Olsen. Not this dude. Sorry, we met this woman. Was it a woman? Richard Greenwood. No, we met this dude. I think his name was Richard Greenwood. Anyway, he worked for this modeling agency called Elmer Olsen. And through that agency is when I first started modeling at the time. It was my first year of high school. Even then, at 13 years of age, and I think close to 6 feet. I think I was like 5'11". How is that possible? I don't know. Memory fails me. But I was very tall at 13 and started modeling. On my modeling comm card at like 13 or 14, it said 5'11". So we'll go 5'11". And even at the beginning of that, I had really large hips. Like I did not have the ratios that were good to be a model, because the standard, I guess, for models when it comes to high fashion runway is a 34-inch hip. And at the time, I was like sickly level thin and doing anything and everything I could to get my hips down. And when I was 13, I literally asked my mom if I could get surgery to get my hips shaved down at 13. So safe to say that my eating disorder when it comes to the anorexia portion of it really began when I started modeling. As time progressed, I didn't do much modeling in the beginning around 13, 14 because I just didn't have the hips for it. And that's kind of when I started diving into drugs. And I was on drugs for a few years. And drugs were great because I never ate. The types of drugs that I was taking were mainly stimulants. So things like MDMA, cocaine, stuff like that, where it resulted in me not being too hungry, which was great because I wanted to be extremely skinny. Like I remember in grade 9, grade 10, all I could think about all day constantly was just food and my body. And I remember like walking around and being so fucking skinny. Like this was when I was modeling and just thinking like, oh my God, I can feel the fat on my body moving. Like I remember eating like you like 4 olives a day. And I was like, yeah, this is sufficient. This will be fine. And I think part of the drug usage was just quieting those voices and quieting the childhood trauma and kind of the shit that I'd endured, and living life as a very masked autistic person with a lot of mental health issues. And I was just trying to figure out how to cope. And I did that through doing drugs. And the first time I went into rehab, I was 17. I went to rehab 4 times. The first 3, I was kicked out. And the 4th time was the charm. The difference is between rehabs round 3 and 4, that's when I stopped doing hard drugs. So I started gaining weight because I was just consuming a shitload of alcohol and smoking a bunch of weed and eating a bunch of food. But then an interesting thing happened. When I went into rehab round 4, it was in a mental hospital this time at this program called Meadow Creek. And because it was at a hospital, for the first time I was eating like actually portioned foods for every single meal. So I lost a bunch of weight. And I was 6 foot at the time, I believe, and got down to around 126 pounds. So I started modeling again at 19 after I got sober. Unfortunately, nobody really knew what the fuck to do at that agency. I think if they really wanted women to be successful at their agency, they probably should have just hired a dietitian and like a personal trainer, but they didn't. From what I can remember, at least. I mean, there could have been one on staff, but there wasn't one that I was working with at the time. And their solution, I guess, to help me once again lose weight off my hips was to just do a shitload of cardio and not eat carbs, because we're taught that carbs are the devil. I was told to do lots of cardio, run up hills, and just cut out carbs. A recipe for fucking disaster, of course. And I ended up dropping around 10 pounds, getting down to around like 116, 117. And it still wasn't enough. It still wasn't enough for that industry at that time. Although I had the height for high fashion runway, my hips were just too big. And that's okay. But at that time, I started going to the gym again. I started doing lots of cardio. And for me, that looked like an hour on the elliptical every day, if not twice a day. But it was a beautiful thing because it did get me to the gym. Being active is something that I've always really enjoyed, like especially throughout childhood. And unfortunately, I don't have the fucking money or like the time or whatever to do, I don't know, like adult sports, I guess. But it's something that I miss a lot. So I kind of found that in the gym, and that was a huge benefit for me. And then after I stopped modeling around 2014, a year later, I got into a relationship, and I was in that relationship for a couple of years. And I do what I do whenever I get into relationships, which is stop going to the gym. My fatal flaw and biggest mistake, one that I will never fucking make again. It was a very toxic relationship. It exacerbated my mental health. Trigger warning, being raped probably didn't help with that, especially considering the fact that I didn't realize I was being raped for months on end. But I digress. As soon as I got out of that relationship, I wanted to do the thing that everybody did, which is get the revenge body. So I took myself back to Fit for Less, where I kind of began my fitness journey, I guess, to a degree, in the sense of like doing a bunch of cardio constantly. And I started doing a fuckload of cardio again because the weight section intimidated me, as women were always told that if you don't want to get bulky, then you have to just do cardio. So I started doing cardio. And a few months in, this guy comes up to me, and we ended up being friends for quite a while. He came up to me and he was like, hey. And I was like, hey. And we had hung out while I was on drugs. And I had asked him one day, we started training a little bit together, and he was teaching me how to deadlift, how to squat. And I started kind of progressing from just doing cardio to doing a bunch of cardio, but also training glutes. And when I say training glutes, I mean training legs, but my intent was to get bigger glutes. And I remember saying to him one day, like, how many times did we hang out, when I used to do drugs? Like 3 or 4? And he told me we hung out for 2 years. And if that's not the epitome of being a drug addict, I don't know what is. But anyway, it was cool because I think it was the only Fit for Less location at that time, and it did have a squat rack. Like, it wasn't just a Smith machine, which was cool. So I started kind of doing SBD movements without the bench portion of it. And then once again, got into another fucking relationship, and guess who stopped going to the gym? It's funny, I remember at that point, I was the most in shape I'd ever been. And it's funny how our parents impact us so positively and so negatively. And I remember one day I was at my mom, and this was like at the height of me kind of starting to actually lift weights and train. I remember coming out of the bathroom. I was taking a shower at my mom's house, and I got out of the shower, and she said to me word for word, "I'm worried that if you don't do something about this, you're going to be so big that you won't be able to do anything about it." And this was at the point where I was the proudest of my physique I'd ever been, and I looked fucking amazing and incredible. But it just goes to show how impactful diet culture is on everybody. And shout out to you, Mom. I love you, Mom. Happy Mother's Day. It is Mother's Day currently as I record this, and my mother is the most unbelievable human on the planet. But it just really goes to show that, like, as a society, we value people that are smaller. And it's just wild now that I'm thinking about it. I'm going to go a little bit more into this later. I just wanted to like finish recapping kind of like my little history, and then we'll get into it. But at the height of this, when I was starting to learn how to squat and deadlift, that's when I entered into my most recent relationship, which was 3 years ago now. And it was around 3 years long. And when I entered that relationship, I was fit, I was lifting, I had glute gains, like I was kind of just starting to venture into like lifting other weights that weren't just for my legs. And once again, guess who stopped going to the fucking gym? Me, girly pop. And I got into this relationship, and he was an abusive narcissist. I attract unbelievable men. And once again, that relationship really exacerbated my mental health. I went from somebody who was working full time to not being able to work. That's what happens when you're being fucking abused and treated like shit. And I stopped going to the gym. And during it, it got to a point where I gained around 30 pounds. And I got pretty close to around 200, and we kind of said enough was enough. He was gaining weight as well, so we decided to go to the gym together. And at that point, I knew fucking nothing about nothing, and I started doing 10 sets of 10 of everything. 10 sets, 10 reps, no rest in between sets, really. Like, if I was resting, it was like maybe 15 to 30 seconds max. So I was pushing a shitload of volume. It was stupid, but, you know, we all kind of just enter into the gym, and we just try shit out. Like, it's the beauty of it, and it's what's scary about it is just the fact that, like, we're doing shit that we've never done before. We don't know how to do it. And I was just doing shit without guidance and doing the best that I could. And then COVID hit, March 16th, 2020. Everything got shut the fuck down. So guess who stopped going to the gym? Me. Once again, the gyms went through periods where they reopened. I started going again. They closed, whatever. And I started prioritizing going on hikes and moving my body that way. And that's kind of where I got a lot of movement in that last year. And then the relationship ended, and I moved to Mexico. And about 5 months into moving Mexico, I believe it was November 5th, 2021 was when I really started my fitness journey. I didn't really know what the fuck I was doing until probably 9 months ago, a year ago. But at the time, I didn't really understand how important it was to slowly progressive overload. And I was doing a kickback machine, and this girl had it at 130 pounds. And at the time I was doing like 50 pounds. And as a joke, I just went to push it to see if I could. And I could. And I was like, oh my God. So I started training way heavier for the next several weeks on legs. And I went in 2 weeks from doing 50 pounds on leg extensions to 150 pounds. And then guess who got a double knee injury, bitch? Me. I did. So I unknowingly started basically a push-pull split. And I trained push-pull for like 2 or 3 months because the knee injury was so bad I could barely move. Like I could barely put myself on the toilet. It was fucked up. And I needed to move my body, and the only way that I could do that was by going to the gym and just training push and pull because I literally could not train legs. And then something interesting happened that once again stopped me from going to the gym for the next 6 months. I had major pain in my breast. I didn't know what was going on. I was really fatigued. And I went to a hospital in Mexico, got the little, what's it called? An ultrasound, was told I had breast cancer and that I would need treatment. Got the squish boob pancake thing, told the same thing. So I only had one friend in Mexico, and my mom lives in Ecuador because she was not able to afford to retire and live in Canada, which is where we've lived forever. And she's been there since 2020 of October. We were trying to figure out what I should do for treatment, and we realized that the best course of action would be for me to move to Ecuador where she lived and get cancer treatment there. So I moved to Ecuador and I'm fucking sick. Like we're talking sick. I got a parasite. I was fucking shitting water 80 times a day. I will not fucking lie about that one. Literally, I was shitting every 2 fucking seconds, and they could not figure out what was wrong with me. I did blood test after blood test, urine test, stool samples, like fucking everything. Finally, after about a month of being there, I was in the hospital for like a week because I almost died of grade 3 dehydration because I was fucking shitting everything out. Yeah. And while I was there, I got a fucking, what's it called? The camera up your ass and down the throat, colonoscopy and anoscopy. And they found a huge buildup of gluten, and guess who switched to gluten-free? And wow, almost like my IBS stopped being a thing. Crazy. And while I was there, I ended up getting a biopsy on my left breast and had a chunk of my fucking boob taken out. And holy shit, that was really fucking scary. It's scary being in a hospital where you don't speak the language, because although they froze me, the pressure that they put on your breast, they don't tell you. They didn't tell me what they were doing. I thought they were just taking out one chunk and that was it, but they pushed down 8 times. It was like the most amount of pressure. Just thinking about it makes me want to fucking cry. And it was so painful and so scary. And we waited a few weeks for the results. The results came in, and the doctor said to me, "You don't have cancer, go live your life." And I thought, okay, now is the time. Like, I had this view of how I wanted my life to look, and although I've always liked women, I viewed myself getting married, and to me, the easiest route of getting married and having a kid was to be in a relationship with a cisgender man. So I wanted to have a man that I could understand and that was taller than me. So I realized I needed to move back to Canada. So I moved back to Canada, got this apartment that we're living in right now, and I joined Anytime Fitness. And it was there where I started fucking training like a demon. It was amazing. I had no idea what I was doing still, but I was doing 1 day upper, 1 day lower. That was my split. I didn't know what a split was. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing, but I was training because it felt good to me to move my body in that way. And then in February 2023, I came to a realization, because here I thought, I started looking at bodybuilders, and I had been following this girl, Kerrigan Pike, since like 2018. And I've always wanted to be a bodybuilder because of her. And I remember messaging her in February of 2023 being like, "You've inspired me. I'm going to get my pro card, blah, blah, blah." And when I'm into something, I'm into it. And fitness and nutrition became my special interest. And before that, I genuinely thought that I was going to be the first competitive bodybuilder in the history of the world that was going to eat whatever they wanted. I thought that I could out-train a bad diet. Boy, was I wrong. So I started doing deep dives on nutrition to understand how it worked, how to utilize it as a tool to kind of get closer to my goals. And what I realized is that I actually needed to start taking nutrition seriously and into consideration. So it was weird, like figuring out how to track macros, how to cook best for me, how to figure out a system that worked best. Especially because I'm autistic, I have hyperfixation. Sometimes I feel like eating, sometimes I don't. And I remember the first day I fucking hit protein, dude. I hit 180 grams of protein and my stomach, my abdomen was fucking distended, dude. Like my stomach fucking quadrupled in size. I had not been that bloated in years. It was fucked. My stomach was hard. It was crazy. And I remember the transition, and I was working at the time as a graphic designer, and I remember thinking, okay, well, I'm eating quote unquote healthy, because at the time I still had a very flawed view of food where it was like food was inherently bad versus good, and I was eating quote unquote good food that was like more whole foods, less ultra processed, and prioritizing protein. So I assumed that because I was doing that, I was going to feel great. Absolutely not. My body was like, what the fuck? We don't know what you're doing right now. We don't like this. And I was sick for 3 weeks. It was a really big adjustment starting to eat a higher protein diet so that I could get closer to pursuing the, like, I guess, physique goals that I had in mind. I ended up not getting fired, but like I was pushed out of my company. Basically, a little like very short backstory is I kept making comments about how our Black employees felt marginalized. And long story short, during Black History Month, I brought up the fact twice that Black History Month, they had done nothing for it, but they had done stuff for other days. So I was kind of confused about that. And then I spoke up again about how one of my coworkers who was Black came to me and was frustrated about it. I brought it to upper management, and then all of a sudden I got put on a performance improvement plan. And throughout the 10 months I was working at this company, I had saved a lot of money. So it got to a point where my mental health was so fucking bad that I had to quit. I did not even give them courtesy of 2 weeks. I was a contractor. It was fucked. There were months where I literally didn't get paid, and I was like, fuck y'all. I literally considered putting myself in a fucking psych ward to deal with the stress of this. You can suck my fucking dick, and I'm leaving. So for the next 5 months, I lived off of my savings, but I had nothing in my life. So what did I do? I went from training 2 hours to 2.5 hours to 3 hours to 4 hours plus. 4 hours 5 times a week, if not 6 times a week, if not 4.5 hours. So I was spending minimum 20 hours a week at the gym training. And I was under the assumption that maybe, possibly I wanted to be a power lifter. And then a friend of mine at the time who was a personal trainer said to me, well, you're not doing powerlifting training, you're doing bodybuilding training. And I had no idea that I was training for hypertrophy. And I realized, okay, well, if this is the training that I like doing, this is what I enjoy the most, then I guess that's what I'll do. I guess I'll be a bodybuilder because this is what I enjoy. And as time went on, I progressed, but I realized that in order for me to progress, it's kind of the analogy of like asking someone, would you rather be the smartest person in a room full of dumb people, or would you rather be the dumbest person in a room full of smart people? And I wanted it to be like that, but like at a gym. And I'm a learner, so I wanted to like soak up knowledge from other people, and I wanted to be around the best of the best. So I joined the best gym in Ottawa called 613 Lift. And I remember the first day I went there, it was Canada Day 2023, and I was scared shitless. I had the smallest amount of muscle mass and the most amount of fat, and it was fucking frightening, but it was fucking amazing because I surrounded myself with like-minded people who had the same kind of goals that I did. And like through those connections, I made really good friends. I learned from people, and there's only so much that you can do when it comes to like learning about things versus like actually putting them into practice. And although it was fucking scary and I looked like a fucking idiot, you have to be willing to look like a dumbass when you start training for the first time, because you're not gonna know everything. And not everybody has the resources to hire a personal trainer or hire a coach. And even if you do, you're doing things that you've never done before. So you're gonna look like a fucking idiot. But I had to embrace that discomfort in order to get to where I wanted to be. And I felt this sense of purpose and this discipline. And I've talked about this before. I'll say it once and I'll say it again. Bodybuilding is fucking great. Bodybuilding is great because it has made me so fucking disciplined. And that discipline has carried over into so many other parts of my fucking life. I went from being somebody who could not keep their space clean, who could not take care of themselves, who could not brush their teeth, who could not make themselves meals, who could not keep their space clean, keep up with laundry, to like somebody who prioritizes keeping their space clean, somebody who prioritizes moving their body by fueling their body, like making their bed every day. It's fucking crazy what the gym and what the fitness space has done for my mental health. As I kind of progressed through this journey, I realized what I wanted to do, and I wanted to coach people. I wanted to help people through learning what I learned, how to build a better relationship with themselves, with food, with moving their bodies. So that was like something that I had envisioned doing down the line. And in October of 2023, I got a job at Anytime Fitness as a gym manager and as a social media manager doing graphic design work. And half the time I worked at corporate and half the time I worked in person at a gym. Long story short, I worked there for 3 weeks. I asked for disability accommodations, and the only accommodation I asked for was to be able to work from home on the days where I was doing graphic design. And guess who got fired? I did. And I remember getting fired from that job and driving home. And my plan was that once I had worked at Anytime Fitness, once I had passed the probationary period, in 4 or 5 months down the line, I was going to end up launching online fitness coaching. And I was going to keep working and do both jobs until I had enough clients that I could quit. And I had started content creation the previous summer. One of the things that's been so instrumental in helping me with my fitness and nutrition journey is listening to a podcast called Fitness Stuff for Normal People. I talk about it all the time on my YouTube channel. It's my favorite podcast. It's run by 2 people, Train Bloom on Instagram, Tony, and Mariana on Instagram, Mariana's Pantry. And they are lovely. And I remember talking to Tony and saying to him, listen, like, I want to do online coaching. I need you to give me like no bullshit. What do I do? What program do I take? What do I need to do in order to like get this started? He was like, fuck the programs, fuck the certs. He was like, there are 3 books you need. Here they are. Buy them, read them, launch it. And I was like, don't I need certification? Like, isn't this what I need? And he was like, honestly, if you take a look at some of the courses, like in order to pass, you literally need to answer some of the questions wrong in order to pass. Like one of the questions is like, what's the most important meal of the day? Is it breakfast? True or false? True. Breakfast is not the most important meal of the day. Anyway, whatever. So I got these books, I started reading them, and then a few weeks later, I launched online coaching like a month later, and I was fucking terrified and I didn't know what I was doing. And I signed my first client 6 months up front. Shout out to you, Carrie girl. It was a big learning curve that I've had over the past 6 months, but I've learned so fucking much and it's been so cool. And the thing is that I'm very honest with all my clients. When I do intake calls, one of the first things I tell people is like, listen, I'm not certified. Here's the deal. I have lived experience, and fitness and nutrition have become a special interest of mine. So like if you ask me something and I don't know the answer, I'll tell you I don't know the answer. I'll go do research and then I'll come back for an answer with you that's like informed, because my goal as a coach, as someone who's doing lifestyle coaching, not bodybuilding coaching, is to help educate, inform, and inspire my clients. And for me, although it's financially beneficial for me to have clients that are long-term, like we're talking like a year, to me, it means that I'm not doing my job, because my job is to help them get closer to their goals. And I say that very intentionally, because a lot of them go in with a physique goal. Building your dream physique doesn't take weeks, doesn't take months, it takes years. It takes a long time. And unfortunately, because of this industry and how fucked it is, we lead people to believe that they can achieve their dream physique in a matter of months, when that's just not the case. It's been such a cool fucking journey, because there's like a couple people, like maybe 3 or 4 on this planet, that think of me, little old me, as a fucking fitness influencer. Like, I literally had a girl in January message me, and she has struggled with an eating disorder forever. And in the matter of like 3 months, she gained 30 pounds and was like, you cured my eating disorder. Thank you for your content. And it's crazy to me to think that as somebody who has struggled so much their entire lives with eating, with fitness, with nutrition, is seen as somebody who's a fitness influencer. And like, if younger me could see me now helping other people improve their relationship with food and moving their body, it's just crazy. It's like the coolest thing in the fucking world. It's the most beautiful fucking gift. And it's just wild. And through all of this, like for the past year, for a long time, if you go back through my older videos or like YouTube's, like I'll always talk about how like if I step on stage as a competitive bodybuilder, it's going to be like in minimum 3 years, because I need time to grow. I'm not going to step on stage just for the sake of stepping on stage. And everyone has their reasons why they do what they do, but I think that some people bodybuild and step on stage for the wrong reasons. And I'm not going to spend thousands of dollars putting myself in a fucking deficit so I can step on stage in a fucking sparkly bikini and pose when I'm not conditioned enough. It's just not it for me. And the thing is as time progressed, I started learning more and more about bodybuilding. And there's this one bodybuilder that I follow. Her name is Kayla Ashworth. She is an IFBB pro. She has her pro card and she does bikini. That's what she competes in. And for women, there are 3 different categories. One is bikini, where it's a balanced upper and lower, and it's relatively smaller. Figure is more dominant upper body, and you're quite large. And then wellness, which is a heavier lower body, where it's like more developed glutes, calves, quads, adductors. And I realized that in order for me, because I literally had a plan, like, 6 months ago, 9 months ago, I was like, a year ago, I was like, this is it. I'm going to go to the Olympia. This is what I want to do. It's going to take me 10 years. I'll be stepping on stage, by like 40, but like, this is what I want to do. I want to go to the fucking Olympia. I want to win my pro card. I want to be the best of the best. And what I realized is that through research, if I wanted to be a pro bodybuilder, the reality of it is that I had to pay. I would have to take PEDs. That's just the name of the game. That's just bodybuilding. Like, that's competitive bodybuilding. That's just how it goes. Unless you're like a genetic fucking masterpiece. And even so, like, it gets to a point where if you're high up enough, you're just at a loss, because everybody else who's also genetically gifted, whose training is fucking elite, nutrition is on lock, sleep is perfect, they're all taking steroids. And when I say steroids, a lot of people just assume that steroids are one thing. They're not. They're not. Like, people are injecting different things, taking oral things. Like, it's just so much shit. And for me, I've said for the past few months now, and this is going back to like Kayla Ashworth, because as I've learned more about bodybuilding, I've realized that it's not for me, because she was talking about judges' feedback from her show and how she needs to not train upper body anymore because she's very delt dominant. And in order for her to progress as a bodybuilder, she needs to not train upper so much. I think she said like upper like once a month or something like that, just enough to like maintain it. And I remember thinking, fuck, I don't want to train to fit in some box so that the judges can check something off so that I'm exactly the mold that they need to be. That was like one thing. Another thing And the biggest thing for me as to why I cannot and will not be a competitive bodybuilder is the steroids aspect of it is. For one main reason is my recovery. And I realized this morning that it's two types of recovery. It's because recovery is what has enabled me to stay alive. And I've gotten to a point where I actually want to live to a degree. And recovery from eating disorder is huge. And it's something that I'm still working on till this day. And recovery from drug addiction. And I can't live and be a bodybuilder and go to the gym and do all this shit if I don't have my recovery. And for women, it's so much more dangerous to do competitive bodybuilding than it is for men, because in order to step on stage, you need to be between like 7 to 10% body fat. And as men, they sit around a healthy level of body fat at like 15%. But as women, our quote unquote healthy level of body fat is around 25%. So like you'll hear all the time from competitive bodybuilders how after they do a show, they have to end up spending a year, researching gut protocol, trying to rebalance their hormones because their hormones are all fucked up. They're not getting their period because they ended up doing a show and getting to a point where they're in such a deficit and their body fat is so low that their body is like freaking the fuck out. And for me, I have so much fucking respect for people who do competitive bodybuilding. And it's just something that I've realized that even if I were able to take PEDs, and for me, it wouldn't result in a relapse. Even if it did have, the health implications that I didn't care about physically, mentally, I'm just not strong enough to put myself through a prep. I'm not. And I know that as somebody who is in eating disorder recovery, being restrictive to that level only exacerbates things for me. So I had to choose a path that would enable me to do what I love, but still get the results that I want without going to extremes. And that means that I can be a bodybuilder and live the bodybuilder lifestyle and do hypertrophy training and track my macros, but do it in a less restrictive way that fits into my life, that enables me to have the energy to fucking do shit where I'm not eating, 1,000, 1,200 calories a day, where I'm fucking dying. I wanted to figure out the best route for me, the thing that would make me the happiest. And it's just not being a competitive bodybuilder. I love hypertrophy training. I love it so much. And I love the aspect of basically just being able to sculpt your body. It's so cool as a concept because when you really think about it, having a great physique is probably the most elite status symbol there is, because you can have somebody that's decked out in designer shit and has the best car and has the best house and has the best whatever, but having a great physique is indicative of you give a fuck and you care about yourself. And it's something that it takes years to build. You don't just trip, slip, fall and have a fucking incredible physique. It takes years of hard work and dedication. And for me, that is the biggest fucking status symbol that you can have. And it's so fucking cool. Let me be clear in saying that having a great physique is very different for everybody. We're all built vastly different. We all have different bone structures. We all have very different hormone balances. We all have very different genetics, and that results in us looking different. And that's a beautiful thing. But I think that a lot of people, unfortunately, because of the way that the health and fitness industry is, believe that somebody who's lean all year round, or somebody who is a few weeks out from a bodybuilding show, that they're super healthy. And that's not very indicative of somebody who's healthy. It's indicative of somebody who's put in a lot of work, who's very disciplined. But you'll often see competitive bodybuilders, and if they're doing things like blood tests, their health is not optimal, because in order for you to get that lean, you need to be in a big enough deficit, and you're just not eating enough for what your body needs. So although having a great physique is a status symbol, I don't know, in my opinion, being lean constantly, lean all year round, is just not it. It's not safe. It's not healthy. And also, it doesn't enable you to build muscle and like put on extreme size. Like if you want to put on size, like we're talking real size, you can't do that in a deficit. You can have like a muscle focused recomp where you're eating in a slight surplus of maybe like 200 to 300 calories. Yeah, you can put on size, but like it takes a long time. Like you need to be in a surplus in order to put on size. And that means getting fluffy. It means not being lean all year round. And everything has consequences. There are pluses and minuses to everything that you do, but fuck, the gym has been a beautiful thing for me, man. Because like, it's not perfect. Like my mental health is not perfect, but being disciplined, like the gym has given me so much and it's taught me so much. And although my mental health is shit, it's just as shit as it was a long time ago, I have different ways of coping with it now. Healthier ways. And I have the ability to take care of myself better because of that discipline, because of the gym. And I also have something that's there for me 24/7. Like that's the thing about the gym. She's always there for you. People come and go, family members, boyfriends, girlfriends, partners, coworkers, friendships. People come and go. The only constant is you, but another thing that's constant is the gym. If you have a gym that's open 24/7 and you have a fob. But like, you know what I mean? The gym is always there, and it's one of the most beautiful things for me because I can have the worst mental health. Like I can be in the worst space mentally. And for the past couple of weeks, I've been in such a shit space. A shit headspace mentally. The discipline at the gym has enabled me to do a few things throughout this time where I've been like not good, like rotting level not good, where it's like things that I wouldn't have been able to do 2 years ago. And some very interesting things happen when I allow myself to be depressed and to just rot and like experience the sadness and the suicidal ideation, which is I still fucking make my bed every day. I still feed myself, I still clean, and I still go to the gym. And even on days where I'm like, I'm not doing anything, I'm fucking rotting, that's it, I'm gonna take a few days off from the gym, like I have to, it is what it is, like that's what I need to do. The habit formation and the discipline just kicks in. It's crazy. On the days even when I'm like suicidal and fucking dying, it's just become so ingrained in me that I will force myself to go to the gym. Even if I'm like suicidal, it's on a fucking habit loop now that it's just so ingrained in me that I get up and I go. And the great thing is I can be suicidal and fucking dying and rotting, and I will just habit-wise be on that loop, go to the gym, and I'm telling you, 99% of the time, if I'm suicidal and I go to the gym and I train for a few hours, I leave feeling better than when I first arrived. And not many things can do that for me as somebody who's very mentally ill. Like I am diagnosed ADHD, BPD, ED recovery, generalized anxiety, major depressive disorder, and I'm fucking autistic. Like, dude, I'm fucking disabled and mentally ill and neurodivergent. There are not a lot of things that provide relief for me, but the gym is one of them. And fuck, am I ever fucking grateful for the gym. But like, let's be clear, not everybody has the same 24 hours in a day. For me, I get to have the privilege of waking up and doing breath work and writing my to-do list, setting my intentions for the day, walking my dogs, going on a walk, going on a hike, coming back, working, making my food, getting ready, going to the gym, coming back, working, making food, going to sleep. And I get to do that because of the life that I chose. But like, I'm lucky. Not everybody has the same 24 hours in a day, in the sense of like, there are people that have to care for loved ones. They have kids, they have demanding jobs where they have to be there 9 to 5. And like, luckily I don't have a fucking 9 to 5 job. I'm working more than I've ever worked in my entire life. Most of it is unpaid, but that's just showbiz, baby. That's just content fucking creation. But as somebody who's disabled, I'm not built for a 9 to 5, especially in a fucking office. So through fitness, I have created a job for myself that enables me to do what I need to do in order to be the best version of myself. And for me right now, that means not having a partner, focusing on my fitness, on my nutrition, on moving my body, on just improving myself, on reading, on listening to podcasts, on creating content, creating art. And I get to do that. And I'm so fucking lucky. I barely make ends meet, but it's worth it. Like, I get to choose what I do with my day, and I get to move my body, and I get to help people improve their relationships with food and with their body. Like, that's what I do for work. And it's the most rewarding and unbelievably beautiful thing that I've ever done in my fucking entire life. It's so fucking sick. And at this point, like, I eat now. I'm learning how to meditate. And I'm not beating my body up because I want to fucking die and training 20 hours a week like a dumbass. I'm prioritizing rest and recovery, which is really integral if I want to build muscle. Imagine rest and recovery being good for the gains. But as women, and specifically for me at the time as a model, I was told and we're told that we have more value as people who are smaller, who are leaner, who are thinner. So for me, it seemed like a natural progression, cardio to lose weight. And then, we want a bigger ass. So we start training glutes. Then we fall off. We gain a bunch of weight. We get raped. We go back to the gym. We get into abusive relationships. We start going back to the gym again. Then we get told we have cancer. We lose a bunch of weight. We start weight training again, gain a bunch of weight, lose a bunch of weight, start figuring out nutrition. Here's the standard gym girl progression. It's cardio, then glute gains, and then all of a sudden, you just want to be a Delt queen. And that's where I'm at today. I'm starting to see my muscles pop. I'm starting to see my biceps, my triceps, and my delts, and fuck, it is the most beautiful thing. It is the epitome of delayed gratification. It is years of hard work that I'm finally coming to see to fruition in front of me. And fuck, is it ever sweet. It is a beautiful thing. Anyway, I've yapped for God knows how fucking long. I do not even know how long I've been talking for. Hopefully it wasn't too long, or I'm going to really just shoot myself in the head for having to edit this. But that was the third episode of the Anti-Filter podcast. We covered the natural gym girl progression of cardio to glute gains to just wanting fucking little mini pumpkins and boulder shoulders. And that was it. I don't know. Maybe you found it helpful. Maybe you didn't. I don't fucking know. Hopefully you found some value in this. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, if you could take 15 seconds, hit the 3 dots at the top, give me a 5-star rating. It helps get the podcast out to more people. If you're watching on Tism Pump YouTube, y'all, hello, shoot me a like, comment, subscribe. If you hated this podcast, send it to someone you hate to also spite them. And I think that's it. This was the third episode of the Anti-Filter podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you guys have a fucking great day. Bye, guys.